This presentation is a collaboration between the New York City chapters of the Romance Writers of America and the Historical Novel Society. On August 2nd, 2025, Dan Woods, the COO of Draft to Digital, provided an engaged joint audience with information on getting the packaging right for your books so marketing efforts pay off, what is working best in paid advertising, marketing you can do for free, plus much more. We're pleased to present this joint venture to our members and hope to do more in the future with this and other writing organizations. Information about our chapters is available at the links listed in the description. Thank you, and enjoy the program.
So good afternoon. This is Dan Wood. He's our speaker for today. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Draft to Digital, where he has spent the last decade helping authors publish their books to stores, libraries, and subscription services worldwide. During this time, he has had the privilege to present at conferences around the world and speak with thousands of authors at various stages in their career. Dan is also a co-host of the Self-Publishing Insiders podcast. So Dan, if you would like to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Dan Wood from Draft to Digital. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about making the most of author ads and marketing. And I just wanted to be upfront with you that I'm not an author. I have not ran some of these ads and done some of these marketing things. Unfortunately, our two authors on staff were busy today who have done some of these things, but I have had a chance for a decade to hear some of the best advice in the world about how to do the marketing and the author ads. And for many years, I handled merchandising at Draft to Digital. And what I mean by merchandising is that our retail partners have free promotions you can be a part of. And I was kind of the one that coordinated that on our end. And so I'm going to talk about all of that stuff a little bit later here. But I just want to make sure, I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then I've left a lot of time at the end for questions. But just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from. I can offer a lot of great general advice, and I can point you towards a lot of great resources. But if you have a specific question about how to run a Amazon ad, I'm not going to be the best resource, but I can definitely point you toward, and I've got some resources I'm going to point you to during the presentation. Because I've mostly worked with indie authors, most of this advice is going to be most applicable to indie authors because they have the agency to do some of these things. That being said, if you are traditionally published, I think you're going to learn a lot from this and see what indie authors are doing that's helping them. And many traditional publishers are much more open to collaborating with their authors as they're seeing the success of indie authors on some of these different marketing endeavors. So it never hurts to ask your publisher if they would try this or try that. Just something to keep in mind. I will say with marketing, it's always changing. And so this advice I'm giving you, it could be outdated. I would say this is kind of the culmination of stuff that I've seen over a decade. So a lot of it is a little bit evergreen, but some of the specific tactics and specific places you might go, especially when we talk about social media, that's changing all the time. It can be very frustrating because when you think you've figured out how to do it, the whole game changes. But that also is exciting in a way because change creates opportunity. And so if things never change, then the rich would just keep getting richer. When things shift like that, it gives you as a new author a lot of opportunity to find more readers. So what I'm going to cover today, getting the packaging right, because I think that's really, really important. During COVID, me and Mark Lefebvre and our marketing director at the time, Kevin Tomlinson, wanted to keep in touch with the community because going to conferences and talking to authors have been such a big part of our success. And so we started offering free consultations. We do like 30-minute consultations. And between the three of us, we probably talked to thousands of authors. We just looked at their book. And then we did like a Zoom one-on-one with them and said, here's what we think you could do that would help you sell more books. And over, even though many of these authors had really been in the indie world for years, we saw that not all of them were getting the packaging right. And it's very important because if you don't have the packaging right, when you send people with an ad and you spend money on an ad, it's not going to convert. Or you might be missing out on some of the power of spending on your ads. So talking about the packaging is just going to help you get the most out of anything that you spend money on. I'm going to talk about what's working best in paid advertising, and I'm also going to talk about marketing that you can do that's free. Please note I put an asterisk there. Free. This is, I mean, free in terms of it's not going to cost you any money. You're not going to have to spend money. That being said, I think it's very important that authors, especially as their indie career picks up, think of their time as money. And so these are things you can do. They do take up some of your time. And yeah, at a certain point in your career, you definitely want to quantify my hourly rate. Like if I was spending this hour writing, it's worth this amount to me. If I was spending this hour doing ads and creative stuff for ads, it's worth this much to me. Um, for many authors I've known, they've needed to see, does it make sense for me to spend my time working on writing or cleaning my house? And for many of them, the money made sense to pay someone else to clean their house. I know for me, it took years before I was able to accept I could pay people to mow my lawn, but now I would never mow my lawn again because my time is worth money. So 3 quick tips if you're starting out. Writing the next book is the best marketing you can do. If you only have 1 or 2 books, you want more because nearly everything, all of the great advice you hear about marketing depends on having a larger catalog than 1 or 2 books. I would say at the 3 book point, you can start marketing. I say many of you, if you are the type of writer that can write quickly, 6 books, it just everything works better and you get more return on your investment if you have more books. Write in series if you can. Just readers, for whatever reason, prefer series. It's just easier to get them to buy the next book. They love characters. They stick with the characters. One of the amazing things I saw over the years is romance authors figuring out ways to move on to a different series when they needed to, but connect the 2 series. Where I think of people like Bella Andre, where she would introduce characters in one trilogy and then do their love stories in the next trilogy, so that they were different stories, but they were connected. That kind of stuff keeps readers reading your books. And then, if at all possible, stick to one genre. Within romance specifically, stick to a subgenre. Many readers just stick to one particular area. Doesn't mean you have to do this forever, but if you're starting out, you'll save yourself a lot of headaches if you just kind of focus in for a while and stay in one lane. So what do I mean by getting the packaging right? The cover is probably the best investment. It's the most important thing you'll do because more than likely it's the only time a reader will encounter you at all in your brand. The cover is going to make a reader a promise of what to expect. It just lets them know this is a certain type of book. You want to fit in your genre, have some more typography or fonts to everything that's in the bestseller list. Like if you're ever curious what your cover should look like, go and look at the people that are in, like, that you think are the most comparable to yours. Look at the bestsellers in that genre on Amazon and some of the other retailers. You want your cover to look like it belongs there. And then be aware of cover tropes. I use to kind of illustrate cover tropes. Many of us are familiar with the old thriller trope of you often have someone running there. And so if you look at the cover on the left, this is something our cover designer mocked up for a presentation for me. Thriller covers have a particular font. They frequently have a person, like a silhouette of a person. They're often running. They will often have a recognizable monument from some city to let you know what city it's in. That lets readers know, oh, this is a thriller, and so they're going to be much more likely to buy it. I think if you close your eyes and think about it now, if I say a historical romance cover, you've got an idea of what a historical romance cover looks like versus if I said something like a small town cozy romance, they're going to be very different in look. But I think the best metaphor I found to kind of get this idea across to you is thinking of the cereal aisle at a grocery store. And if you go to cereal aisle, if you see a box that's got a lot of bright colors and an animal or a monster on it, that is kids cereal with a lot of sugar. And if you see a box that's very muted, it's got a font that looks like it's made of grain and things, that is aimed at adults or people that buy for adults that are trying to get them to eat healthy. That's what your cover is trying to do. It's not trying to tell the story of your book. It's not trying to have clever little things on it. I'm not saying it can't have those things, but its main purpose is to let readers know this fits here and you're going to like this if you like that. Then the other piece of advice I have around covers is always make sure the cover still works as a thumbnail, because many of your readers are just going to be seeing this as a very small image on their phone. And so you want to make sure if it looks great I see a lot of cover designers that are new to the business, and I see a lot of authors pick covers that look great at the size of a print book, but when they're squished down, you can hardly read them. You can hardly tell what's on the cover. Especially if you have tried to fit in a lot of different little cute little things to it to show parts of your story, it just gets very cluttered when it's very small. So look at the thumbnail and make sure that looks good and will attract eyes. With product description, some people will call this the blurb. You do not want your description to outline the plot of the book. You're not telling them what the book is about. It's sales copy. It's just a sales pitch. You might think of it like an elevator pitch, if you've heard of those from Hollywood. You're trying to get them to buy the book. That's all it's meant to do. And so you want a hook for the first line. That's what's really going to get them to read on through the description. That's also important for many of the retailers, especially on mobile. They're not going to show the full description to readers. And so you might have one or two lines before the reader has to click show more. You want to get them to click show more. And so you want the strongest part of your sales pitch to be in that very first line. Categorization. So this is going to be, you might have heard of people talk about BISAC codes or thema codes. I'm sure you're aware of like the Amazon categories. Unfortunately, it's not standardized across the industry. Everyone has different categories. BISAC is kind of what libraries use. And so it's often what you'll choose if you're going to draft to digital or if you're going to direct to like a retailer like Amazon. But you want to make sure you know where your book is categorized because you can change your category. So once you list your book, look and see how it's categorized at each of the major retailers. The major retailers being, and I guess I should go back a little bit. Most of this advice is most applicable to ebooks. This advice carries over to selling books online, like print books online. But many of these tactics are specific to ebooks, but getting the category right with your print book, getting the cover right, those are all very important in the print world as well. So now how your book is categorized at each retailer, and you want to try for as specific of a niche as possible. For instance, in romance, if you are in contemporary romance, that is a very, very, very big bucket. There are probably thousands, if not tens of thousands, of new books going into contemporary romance every day across the world. If you can get into something like if your book fits in new adult or if it fits in some of the new genres that are starting to evolve, like dark mafia, you want to be in as specific of a and small of a pool as you can because you're much more likely to find readers that way because readers tend to be very specific about what tropes and what they're looking for. And so after your book goes live, you can check and see where it's categorized. and you can tweak what categories you've chosen. You can check online and ask other people in your genre how they got into certain positions. It's often at Amazon. Sometimes you have to request because they will auto assign you to things. Sometimes they will say no, but it never hurts to ask, and it's always going to be in your best interest. So, right after the end of a book is prime real estate. When a reader has taken the time and has finished your book, is the moment where they most love you and they're most likely to buy your next book or do whatever you ask them to do. And so, you want to take that moment to capture them as a lifelong fan and to make sure that you have a way of connecting to them that no one else controls. The things I tell people to do right after the end include an ask for a review. I know we'd all like for reviewers or for readers just to leave a review and not to have to ask, and it feels a little bit weird and salesy, but ask for a review. That's what all of the top selling authors are doing. Ask them to leave an honest review, but ask for a review. And you'll find that even though it can be frustrating to get 1 and 2 star reviews, if a book is up there with 100 5-star review, that looks very suspect to readers. And so the more reviews you have and the more variety of reviews, the more likely you are to sell your book. You want a link to your newsletter. I'm going to talk a little bit more about newsletters later, but email is by far the only platform and the most consistent platform that you can control your relationship with your reader. If you build like a Facebook group, if you just trust Amazon to notify your readers when a new book is out, you're going to be disappointed because they have other agendas. They are focused on making money. They're not going to do some of those things. And so you want to make sure you get an email if you can. And then you want to let them know where to buy your next book. So we're with reviews. Ask for them, incentivize them, get them any ethical way you can. Amazon's very particular about reviews, and so that's why I stress the ethical part. You don't want to be like, "Hey, I'll do this for you if you leave me a review." You don't want to trade reviews with fellow authors or hire a service for reviews. For the most part, when we were doing our consultations with authors, so many of them just didn't ask, and I think asking is the most important part. When I say incentivize them, and this is true for email as well, you can do things like giving away like special content that is just for readers of a certain type. And so many people will incentivize people to get on their newsletter by giving them a free book, or maybe it doesn't have to be a whole book. You can give them like a little novella or short story that's within your world, but it's exclusive. So you can come up with a lot of very clever ways to incentivize readers to do some of these things. What reviews do is not only do they sell the readers on your book, and like I said, the more varied the reviews, the better. And your readers are also going to use language that will help you later. Like I know many authors don't read their reviews, and I completely don't blame them. But it might be helpful to have an assistant or a spouse read through them and tell them what words keep popping up, because that might help you refine your marketing, because the way the readers talk about your book might not be the way you expect. The other thing that reviews do is they sell the retailers on including your books and promotions. So newsletters, as I mentioned, are the most reliable way to keep in touch with your readers. Every other platform is building on someone else's land, and you never know when they're going to change their plans for that land. My case in point with that is Facebook groups 10 years ago, or maybe slightly less than that, were great for authors, and they could connect to their readers. They had a way to talk directly to their readers. And then Facebook monetized that and cut nearly all of the organic visibility. And so people who invested a lot of time and effort into that suddenly couldn't reach their readers. They're only like reaching a fraction. And by a fraction, I mean 3 or 4% of their readers were seeing the posts that they were making in the groups after that point. So your email list can also help you find new readers. We'll talk about a little bit about that with Facebook ads, but the more you capture readers that enjoy what you do, the easier it's going to be to find new readers. So a link to the next book. Any books, make sure you have a link for your reader to the next book so they can buy it immediately as easily as possible. Make sure the link takes them to their preferred retailer. And then if you have your series metadata, some of the retailers are going to handle this for you, like Kobo and Amazon. When you get to the end of a book on one of their devices or in their apps, if you have filled in everything and said this book is part of this series and this number, they're going to show the reader the next book in the series. So you don't really have to worry about that. But many of the retailers don't. This can be time consuming. I will say if you use Draft to Digital in our service for distribution, we've automated this. So we will send each retailer a list of your books with links directly to those books on that retailer. If you don't use Draft to Digital, you can use like Vellum has some tools that will help you with giving you different EPUBs for different vendors. You can also use a tool I'll talk about at the end of the presentation called Books to Read, which is something that we own and run. You can include a universal book link in your books, and those have been approved by the retailers. And the reader clicks on one of those links, it takes them to a list of storefronts. They pick their preferred retailer. And then after that, it's always going to take them to that specific retailer for any links they click. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So what's working in paid advertising? The big three, and I say like there's really not much close to these, is Amazon ads, Facebook ads, and the BookBub daily featured deal. So with Amazon ads, Amazon, you've probably heard about kind of the heyday of the early 2010s where if you had an ebook, Amazon was giving you a lot of visibility, it would sell. You had to do very little other than put ebooks out. Amazon has monetized that away where their algorithm is basically mostly pushing ad related content. Sadly, you kind of have to pay to play at Amazon unless your book is just drawing in lots of readers and getting a lot of word of mouth. Amazon's done a lot of things to kind of minimize the impact of outside influences like BookBub and like Facebook ads. They want you spending money on their ad platform. I'd say many authors I know find Amazon ads the easiest to learn and to master. Their system is great for getting in front of their enormous audience of readers. Amazon is the big dog. They sell the most ebooks in the world. They sell more books than anyone else in the world, print books. They are huge, and so Amazon ads can be a very effective. And often when you are showing someone an Amazon ad, it can help sell your print book, your audiobook, or your ebook. And so it's getting your brand and your different formats in front of many, many readers. It's relatively cheap to get started. I think a lot of people are afraid that they have to spend a lot of money on it. You can start with like very small amounts of money. But as you get going, it's very easy to spend money on. You want to make sure you're tracking your return on investment with all of these different platforms because it gets kind of addictive. Like you start seeing some success and getting more readers and you're selling more, but you want to make sure that you have a good return on investment. If you're spending $500 to make $600, that's not great because you're really only making $100 net. If you're spending $500 to make $1,000, keep pouring money on that ad because it's working. You might hear about people talking about horror stories of like some things that cost $20,000 or more a month. Amazon has tiers like that. You really don't get offered that unless you're selling a lot of books. Some authors are happy with it, some are not. So Amazon ad resources. The two people I really point people towards, and they both have books online, are Janet Margot. Janet Margot helped build the Amazon ad platform. She worked for Amazon for many years. She's very good at helping authors understand and run better ads. I would say she's a little bit more technical. So if you feel like it's something you're good at and already have a feel for, I would go with Janet. If you are newer and a little bit more inexperienced or hesitant, Ricardo Fayette, who's the marketing officer of Readsy and one of my good friends from a lot of different conferences, has a book called Amazon Ads for Authors. And a lot of authors I've talked to have really enjoyed it, and it's helped them understand how it's working, and maybe a little bit easier to digest than some of Janet's content at first. I'd recommend both books. The other thing I will say for Ricardo is he also has an earlier book that is absolutely free. Like the Amazon Ads for Authors has a nominal cost, but he's got a book marketing for authors book that is free on most platforms that I highly recommend. So Facebook ads, they're great for reaching readers outside of Amazon. They can be used for selling the books at retailers, pushing readers to your direct store, or building your email list. I don't have a lot of time to go into direct sales, but a lot of authors are starting to set up their own bookstore and run Facebook ads toward it. What's great about that is you get much higher margins. Retailers take about 30% of your retail list price. With direct sales, you're keeping closer to 95 to 97%, and you're also capturing the email on every sale. So a lot of authors are liking that. It's a large endeavor. It's something you'll have to spend some time learning, but it is an option out there. Building your email list can make sense for a lot of, especially new authors. You can run Facebook ads towards doing that and doing like giveaways of free books or supplemental material, like I talked about earlier. What's great about Facebook ads is that you can use your existing email list that you've gathered to help find new readers. Basically, you upload this list of readers that know and love you, and Facebook will say, okay, these readers are like these readers, and we can advertise to those readers. And so just it's kind of a cycle where the more readers you bring in and you capture, the more you can reach new readers, and it's very helpful. Facebook ad resources. I mostly recommend David Gogren because he's got a lot of free content. There's a lot of different ad courses out there about Facebook ads that can be very expensive. I would start with David's content. He's got books if you prefer it to read, like Let's Get Digital or Strangers to Superfans. He also has like a YouTube channel that I highly recommend. He's got a newsletter. His newsletter is a little bit sporadic as far as it's not like every week or every month, but he always gives a lot of great advice. And he was in Google advertising, so he understands how advertising and marketing works. BookBub ads. So the daily feature deals are the ones I highly recommend. They're still great ways to get in front of new readers. If you're not familiar with BookBub, they send out a daily email blast to the readers with books that are on sale for a limited time. They used to be the most effective way to advertise. That has changed over time, partially because of Amazon mitigating the ability of an outside source to really push things up the ranks in Amazon. But they are really, really good. The most effective way I've seen to get these deals is persistence. You just want to apply every time you're eligible. They are great for if you're switching from being exclusive with Amazon to being available wide, because a lot of people think that if they've built an audience on Amazon, that there are readers out there that are just waiting to be able to buy their book on other platforms. Those readers have just never heard of you, 9 times out of 10. So you need to get in front of them, and BookBub is a way to get in front of readers from all the different platforms. While you can get a BookBub ad if you are exclusive with Amazon, they're much more likely to pick you if you are available wide and available everywhere, because they've built a big list of readers at all the different retailers. BookBub has some other ads. They're not terribly effective. I don't know a lot of people spending much money on them. I will say that BookBub has some stuff like follow an author feature that I would encourage readers to follow you. Every once in a while, BookBub will for free send out like a notice if you have a pre-order that goes on sale. And so it's worth kind of pushing readers towards their platform and taking part in that, because it can have some benefits for you. The BookBub ad resources out there, they have a great blog, and they really go into a lot about why they pick the books they do, what they do to help sell your book. They interview a lot of different authors and industry experts on marketing tips. So I would highly recommend checking out insights.bookbub.com. So now we're going to talk about the free marketing opportunities. The retailers all have different promotions. Sometimes you'll hear it called merchandising. You can do social media, and we'll talk a little like right now, the really hot one would be TikTok, and then collaborations with peers. So with retailer promotions, most of the major retailers have their own in-house promotions. Those are mostly free to participate in, especially if you're going in through Draft to Digital. Everything that we offer is free as far as our help in getting into their promotions. Uh, I am aware that Kobo Writing Life, if you're direct with Kobo, who's a Canadian retailer, they have some extra opportunities available, but they do have like a small fee to them to participate. Not all the time, but sometimes they have a small fee. Most of the promotions are going to revolve around a price drop for a set period of time. And so that's going to be if you have a $4.99 book, maybe you have it for $2.99 for a week. And then the retailer is going to put it in front of their readers. They might do an email blast. They might do some graphics on their site. I'll show you some examples of this in just a little bit. And then pre-order sales play a huge part in certain types of promotions. So retailers will often highlight what is new and highly anticipated. And so you really should be doing pre-orders. They're great, especially when you're wide. Some authors that are exclusive with Amazon don't like pre-orders because of the way they impact the Amazon ranking system. But I would look and see what your peers who are successful are doing in your genre. I think that's the best way to know if you should be using pre-orders or not. So a few types of the retailer promotions, free first in series type promotions. So if you've got a series of 3 books or more, giving away the first book can be a highly effective way to find a lot of readers, especially on the wide platforms. They tend to have a much higher, they're more sticky and readers tend to read through a series. And so I recommend trying that. These are some examples of promotions Apple's done where they've shown in their bookstore, like on the iPad and iPhone. They've done neat little graphics. There's also things like book bundle promotions. And so if you have a series of 3 books or 6 books, it can make a lot of sense and there can be extra promotional opportunities to see if you bundle them. For whatever reason, Canadian readers, especially at Kobo, tend to buy books in bundles. And so print stores have figured this out a long time ago. You'll often see box sets being sold. Some readers just like to buy a series when it's complete. The one thing to be aware of about with book bundles is that Amazon does limit you in KDP to $9.99 as the high threshold. That's not a great price point for most people for a book bundle. The great thing about the other retailers, though, is they do not limit you in that way. And so you can have a book bundle that's $19.99 or $24.99 or whatever makes sense, where it's still you want it to be a value to the readers, like where they're saving a little bit of money, but you don't want it to be like half of your profit going away because they bought the book bundle. And so having book bundles is just a way to reach more readers and to have a chance to get into other retailer promotions. In that example, many authors I know do not upload their bundles to Amazon because of that pricing restriction of $9.99 is the high point. So a few other types of retailer promotions, promo codes, those are one of my favorites because if a sell is a promo code, then Amazon's not going to price match it. And so I would take part of any of those that you can so that you can actually offer a better price to readers at a certain retailer. And then Kobo tends to do things like buy X, get 1 free. So buy 2, get 1 free, those types of promotions, those are highly effective. Readers love them, and it just encourages them to spend more money. Social media. So TikTok is on top right now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about the specifics of TikTok. I will say there are a lot of different ways to succeed on TikTok. I have friends that have sold a ton of books showing their face, not showing their face, talking on camera, not letting their voice be heard on camera at all. There's so many different ways to succeed with it. What I'll warn you about is you don't want to build your whole marketing strategy around someone else's platform. What works on one platform probably won't work a few years from now. What I was talking about with Facebook and their groups getting monetized, TikTok will do that. They're on the path to that now. Eventually, you will have to spend money to have that sort of visibility, but probably another social media platform is going to come along. And so keep on top of where your readers are, follow your readers. I'll encourage you, don't give in to FOMO. Don't try to be everywhere because you will burn yourself out. Be active on the platforms you like and you get. Um, for me, I tend to do better on platforms like Facebook. Um, I really could not stand Twitter back in the day, and Threads I'm kind of iffy on. So try to be active on things you like. And for me personally, TikTok drives me nuts. So I have a hard time just paying attention at all to it. Collaborations. Email swaps with some of our authors can be huge. Make sure these are authors that are writing things similar to you. That's the big part. But email swaps can help you find readers. Readers are always dying to find new authors they'll love. And so it's a win-win for authors and readers. Multi-author anthologies and bundles can do sort of the same thing, where you put in a lot of different, you can put in whole books, you can put in short stories. Could be a great way for you to find readers. I will say that Draft to Digital offers a payment splitting tool. So if you want to do something like this with your friends, we can handle all of the payments to everyone and handle all the taxes. So that burden isn't on just one person trying to coordinate everything. And then shared universes. We've had several instances of romance authors getting together and deciding they were all going to write stories, but in a shared place or with a shared theme that connected in some way, kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that can be very effective. So, as we're getting here to the end, I wanted to say just a little bit about Draft to Digital. We help indie authors publish over 1 million books distributed through our systems, and 300,000 authors that we work with around the world. As was mentioned at kind of the beginning, we acquired Smashwords in March of 2022, and that's been going great. The intention is for Draft Digital to be the distribution platform that helps you get your books out everywhere, and Smashwords to be a storefront. Right now, the majority of sales on Smashword are romance and erotica, and so it's a great place for romance authors, especially if you're writing in the more steamy areas. What we've done is we've built a worldwide distribution network of retailers, subscription services, and libraries. Our intent is to give indie authors as much access to readers as traditionally published authors enjoy. I would say in ebooks and in audio, that is almost there. Where it really lags behind still is bookstores. Traditional publishers really still do have a monopoly on getting into bookstores. Not to say like through print on demand and everything, we can get your book to where bookstores can order your book and do order books quite frequently. But as far as the dream of walking into Barnes and Noble and seeing your book, that is still something that's still very much traditionally oriented. And when you kind of understand the market and that traditional publishers are having, they're warehousing books, they're printing off large runs of books, so there are better margins. They have returns. That's a big part of the book industry that's hard for indie authors to compete with. And then they have people that are going to all the different book fairs, salespeople that are going and talking to the individual people at Barnes and Noble and the different bookstores that are responsible for purchasing what books are going to be in their stores. And so, while that's getting better, it's still the majority as an indie author of your sales are going to be online, and that's just going to be true for a while. I would say. One really neat thing is we're seeing a lot more publishers like Sourcebooks and a handful in the fantasy and sci-fi realm that are doing deals with indie authors for just print rights only, where they're handling the print and the indie author is free to do their ebook and their audiobook separately. And so it's a great time to be alive, probably the best time there's ever been to be an author. A free tool that we have that I mentioned earlier are the universal book links. If you are familiar with things like Bitly, like link shorteners, uh, what we noticed was that a lot of authors didn't know how to find their link on the various other retailers like Apple or some of the more exotic, like European ones like Tolino. And so we built a tool where if you want to share on your social media where to buy your book, you can share one link. You paste in a link to your book from like Amazon, uh, we will look that book up on all the different retailers that we support. And then you can just share that link. The first time the reader clicks on it, they will see like a list with logos of various retailers. It supports print, it supports audio, it supports ebooks. With ebooks, we look up like the links for you. With print, it's a little bit harder to do that, and so we have you like copy and paste your print link. But it supports all kinds of different formats. We're just trying to make sure readers can find the book in the format that they want at the retailer they want. Kind of see an example here. The universal link is bookstoread.com/u and then random numbers. You can set up a custom book link if a word is not taken, like if you want to put in like your book title, you can do that. So let's say in this case, it says the Sam Pritchard series. So if Sam Pritchard isn't taken as one word, you can have that as your universal link. It'll be bookstoread.com/Sam Pritchard. You can rescan. So if your book wasn't on a retailer at one point and has since gone live, you can rescan and it'll find the link for it. If your cover has changed, you can rescan. It's a very handy tool. It's all free. It works for you if you're distributed through Draft to Digital, or if you're traditionally published, or if you are direct everywhere. You can add your own affiliate codes with it, and it does geolocation, and so it sends readers to the right version of the store for their country. And then finally, because it's really hard to keep on top of all of this, I just want to let you know that we do have a podcast. It's available both on YouTube if you want to see our faces, or your favorite podcast app if you just want to listen. We interview authors, we interview our industry friends, we interview people that are experts on PR or all kinds of different things that we think would be relevant to indie authors. And so it's a great way to keep on top of all of that. And with that, I am done with the presentation.
So Dan,
Yes.
I asked people if they had questions, and I'm sure they're not the only questions, but there are some questions in the chat that can maybe get started, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So,
I'm
you know what?
looking through them right now.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
say, so here's the first question that one relates to, we'll answer later. The next one, Joe David, with respect to ebooks, how does your advice about covers translate?
with respect to, I'm not sure I follow the question, but most of the advice I'm giving is very specific to ebooks, because ebooks are going to be what you'll probably sell the most of because of just they're such a good value to readers. Um, did that answer the question? Like, I'm not quite sure.
Joe, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So in the old days, we go into a bookstore and we would physically look at the books, and the covers were there, right? With the ebooks, we don't necessarily, you make a different decision to read an ebook to begin with. You're not looking at covers to decide if you want to read the book. So does the ebook cover really matter?
Oh yes, no, our research shows it matters completely, and all the six-figure and seven-figures authors I know are spending a lot of money on their covers, and they're recovering every so often as the trends change. Readers are still ebooks covers are as important, if not more important, than print covers were in the traditional world and with print books.
Why?
It's the way humans are wired. It's why all these different companies spend so much money on getting their branding right. Like it's why we keep seeing Coca-Cola ads, even though we all drink Coca-Cola. It's you want something that people will think of, they have brand recognition, and it tells them exactly what they're going to get.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joe also asked, how do you build an email list?
The main thing is asking, making sure both on like your social media that you're asking every once in a while. With social media, you want to make sure that you're following like a rule of like 80% participating with the community and no more than 20%. I would say sometimes 90-10 is even better. Uh, Selling something. And so, like, if you're active on threads, mostly talking with readers, talking about things your readers might like, and then every once in a while being like, "Hey, I've got a book on sale," or "Hey, if you're interested, I have an email newsletter list." You can also run Facebook ads that are designed around getting readers to your newsletter. That's often where you do an incentive, like giving a free ebook to them or having special material. Like I had an author friend that is in thrillers that wrote up a dossier about some of the major characters because it's kind of like spy novel type things. And so the readers really wanted to, his super fans really wanted to read that. So that's kind of, it's just incentivizing and asking is the best way to build it up.
Thank you.
Okay, so Bobby Calhoun asks, every social media expert I talk to wants me to put energy into Instagram, but I don't buy books based on Instagram posts. What are your thoughts?
Some readers do put energy in this Instagram, but I know very few people that are focusing on Instagram as far as authors are concerned. Um, There are a lot of people that have found success with TikTok that are starting to repurpose those videos as Instagram Reels. The weird thing about Instagram right now is it doesn't really know what it wants to be, if it wants to be a photo place or if it wants to be a video place, and they're kind of copying TikTok. Um, some of my friends are making money off of things oriented towards Instagram, but I would not focus on it at this point.
Okay. What if you don't have an email list? This is from Mara Schifrin. Because the first
It,
book.
yeah. It would be very good to go ahead and set one up as soon as possible. Like I think it's one of the most important things to do. With a lot of services out there, they are free or nominal price until you get to a certain number of subscribers. The good thing is you can't really make a wrong choice because with the newsletters, you can move them to another platform. Like once you have secured permission for those people to be on your newsletter, there's some European laws around all of that, but you can move. So if you start off on Mail or Light and you decide later that it's too expensive when you hit a certain tier, you can move and take those with you, and the majority of them will transfer over to um, a new provider. But yeah, I think every author should go ahead and build a newsletter. I do realize that it's a little bit technical, but there are people out there and assistants that can help you.
So Anna Brazil asked, who do you consider the major retailers?
Amazon is by far the biggest digital retailer in the world, sell the most online. A lot of people don't realize it, but Apple Books sells the second most ebooks. So Apple is huge, especially for romance authors. The really neat thing about Apple is that they have a younger demographic. It would be, I would say, whereas Barnes and Noble and Amazon tends to be mostly women, empty nests like 45 plus. Uh, Apple tends to be like women in their 20s on up. And so, like, if you're in YA or romantasy or some of those that are targeting a younger demographic, Apple's very good. um, After Apple, probably at this point, Kobo, between their network of selling books on their Kobo website, but Kobo also partners with a lot of international bookstores that are like brick and mortar stores. So they reach a lot more than just the Kobo website. They have a subscription service similar to Kindle Unlimited, but you don't have to be exclusive with it. So they're selling a ton. After that, like the library systems probably are the most sales. Then like Barnes and Noble, which is used to be a pretty big player, but they've kind of shot themselves in the foot and continue to lose ground as far as online sales. And Google Play. Those would be the majors. I'd say as far as the library system are concerned, Overdrive. You could spend 90% of your effort with libraries just on Overdrive because they are by far the biggest.
Okay. Bobby Calhoun asks, how do we hire Draft to Digital to work with us to partner on all these recommendations?
So we don't have any sort of upfront cost or anything. We are an aggregator, so we just help distribute your book. Where we make money is if your book sells, we keep a portion of the sale. So we keep about 10% of the retail list price. The retailer keeps about 30%, and so you're going to make about 60%. Of the sale. The numbers change a little bit for libraries because they are a wholesale market, and Overdrive keeps a little bit more. But in general, we keep about 10% of whatever your sale is. So you don't have to pay anything. As far as like learning about the promotions and everything, if you write our support team, they will add you to our promotions list and you'll get emails if your books qualify. Some of the promotions are targeted like by genre or by theme. Some of the promotions, they just want books with like, they'll say like this is a summer theme, so they'll want like beaches and things of that nature. And so we try not to tell people about promotions that they aren't going to qualify for to begin with. And so we'll let you know as different opportunities come up.
Okay, Lisa Yard asks, any plan to expand templates you have for print layout or options to include cover templates?
Yeah, we are working on supporting a lot more things with print. The main thing we're kind of focused on right now is we're wanting to add large print and make it very easy because we think there's a good market for that. And so instead of having to like go to your cover designer and get two different print covers and go back and forth with them on the dimensions of the print covers, like we do with our D2D print, we try to handle all that for you. You just bring us an ebook cover. We will figure out the dimensions. We will make a wraparound design that takes like the dominant color of your cover, and then lets you fill in like your information as far as the back blurb, the spine text and everything. So we're trying to do that with more. We're trying to add more templates as far as um, handling different sizes, and then uh, some people use our templates for like creating their interior ebooks and PDFs where we have some graphics. We're looking at adding to those as well.
Okay, Jean Joachim asks, is there any way to lower my book's price on Tolino?
So for those of you that aren't familiar, Tolino is a German, what do you call them? Like a coalition of the German brick and mortar stores. Rather than each of the different stores getting like making their own devices and their own app and competing against each other, they just like we need to compete against Amazon. They all got together. So they have a Tolino device that's like the Kindle device here. They have a Tolino app that's like the Kindle app on your phone or Android. Um, they very much are focused on the German market. There is not a way to send a specific price to just one retailer. Because of the agreements with the retailers, you have to send them all the same prices. With Tolino, you can, at least at Draft to Digital, and I'm pretty sure Amazon lets you do this, Apple lets you do this, Kobo lets you do this. You can set a price in euros that's different than your US price and not based on the conversion rate. And so you can set whatever price you want in euros, and that would be the way to offer something at a cheaper price for the Tolino platform.
What are your thoughts? This is from Ava Seavey. What are your thoughts on Substack versus email?
Substack is someone else's platform, so it's got the same problems as Facebook and all the other social media. You can't move your readers. Well, Substack might let you move your readers, so it's not horrible, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time on Substack. I think if you've heard of Jane Friedman, um, well, there's two Jane Friedmans, not the one from Open Road Media, but the Jane Friedman that's like a publishing consultant. She's got a lot of great advice about why she doesn't do Substack. And so if you look up Jane Friedman and Substack, I would read up on why she recommends not doing it. But the email list that you control is probably still the best way to go.
Janet Oakley asks, what platform is best for historical fiction?
It's going to be ones with an older target demographic. Barnes and Noble is still very good for historical, Kobo, Amazon. Those are going to be the main ones.
Okay. Hold on here. If we don't use Draft to Digital to format our book, can we still use you to distribute?
Yes. Yeah, we take EPUBs. Many of the authors I know use Vellum. It's probably the most popular of the different formatting tools out there. Atticus is also very popular. I would not use Calibre. There's some people that send us stuff from Calibre, and we tend to have issues with it and have to send it back to them, and they often don't know how to fix it themselves. But Vellum and Atticus, I highly recommend. I'm sure there's some other great ones out there.
Okay, so there's a couple questions that seem like they were repeated already, either in Dan's presentation or somebody asked something similar. Does anybody have any additional questions that they'd like to raise their hand and ask?
I have recently contracted with a couple of book club marketers that have newsletters that go to book clubs, and I was wondering, Dan, what your experience of that is.
The book clubs?
Yeah, well, these women have newsletters that go directly to book club members, and one of them has 90,000 book club members. Some of them are in duplicate clubs, and the other one has a list that has only one member club. So it's a pretty potent way to reach book clubs. But what is your experience with marketing to book clubs?
I don't know a lot of authors that are focusing on doing that in the indie world. I think it can be effective, certainly in some genres. I think it's just a little bit more specific, and it can be like 90,000 sounds like a big number, but a lot of indie authors have like 500, 600,000 people on their email list, and so like it's of those you're probably going to convert less than 1%. And so when you start talking about like the big numbers of who's going to click on the email and then who's going to act on the email,
Yeah, the smaller one, I had about something like 8% reaction
that's
from
good. Yeah.
clubs. Yeah, and from clubs that were interested in the book, at least. That they didn't commit to buying it, but they said that they were interested. So I felt like that was something. I was hoping for 10%, but it's good to hear from you that that's a pretty good percentage.
It is like 3% is a good percent. Many like email blasts are less than 1% of people take any action. We have a partner called Fable that has kind of focused on that market where they're trying to connect to book clubs and get the book clubs to buy the books in their platform, and then they kind of coordinate so the people can talk within their platform about the books. So it's definitely something people are pursuing. I just haven't heard a lot about it for indie authors. That being said, like the book clubs, like back in the day, Oprah's book club, but like Reese Witherspoon stuff, like those every author wants to be promoted by some of those book clubs.
Yeah, that would be ideal and unlikely. But what did you say the partner's name was?
Fable.
Fable. Okay.
Yeah, Fable.
Great, thanks.
They're our newest partner, and so like while I wouldn't say we're seeing like huge sales from them, we have seen growth over time. They are very new, and it's a kind of an exciting idea for a business model, and so I'm excited to see if there is a better way to monetize some of those book clubs and to get in front of those book club readers.
Thank you.
Loretta, you had a question?
Yes, Dan. Could you say something about Publish Drive?
Yeah, Publish Drive is probably our biggest competitor left at this point. Their model is, instead of taking a cut of your royalties, they charge you a subscription fee every month based on the number of books, and so it can vary by how much they charge you. They reach a couple of markets we don't. Mainly the one that they will tout is getting into China, but they don't really get that many books into China. I'm not a big fan of them. They have taken a lot of venture capital money, and I think the subscription model is bad for authors because in most of the time you're going to lose money off of a subscription model. But they are an alternative way to reach a lot of the places that we reach.
Yeah, I'm still a little unclear. I mean, I know you've gone through it, but I guess it's all very new to me. So I'm still a little unclear about how the whole process for working with you works. You said you like take 10%, and like how is it that you determine our sales? And if you like, I have like I guess a hybrid publishing situation, so I'm not like self-published, which I guess is it's a little bit different. Um, I don't even know if I could like sign up for something like that then, because I'd have to like talk to the publishers.
Yeah, it depends on your contract with the publisher and if it's exclusive or not. It probably is. What indie authors would bring us either an EPUB, which is the file that the retailers want to sell digital books, or their Word document. If they bring the Word document, we then can convert it for them into the EPUB and the PDF file that they need for print. And then they bring us a cover and fill in like their metadata. And the metadata is like the title, their author name, series, choosing their category. Once they do that with our system, they get to choose where they want us to distribute it to. All of our partners are opt-in, and so people will use us often, though, will go direct to Amazon and then use us to get everywhere else. And then we send out those books. It tends to take about 2 days for the retailers at most, and a few weeks for the library systems. And then the book is out there. Most of our partners report back to us about every month as far as what the sales were. We do get sales estimates daily from most of the major retailers, and so we can kind of tell you how your book was doing, how many it sold the day before. But we don't really know for certain until they've done the accounting numbers, which tends to be on different schedules for different platforms. And so, like Apple pays out the next month, Kobe pays out after 60 days, libraries pay out a little bit longer, print pays out a little bit longer. But we get all those numbers. We share the numbers that we get from the retailers about all your sales to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a way to like set an appointment? I mean, if you want to discuss it further, get an appointment with you and like discuss it in more depth, like what our situation is, or how does that work?
I would recommend at this point, like we have several videos on our YouTube site covering most of the topics about setting up an account and everything. We aren't right now doing any consultations, but we might do that in the future. We announce all that on our social media type stuff if we're going to have those available. And if you are ever at any of the conferences, we tend to be at a lot of the indie oriented conferences and several of the romance conferences. So you can always come up and talk to us any of those.
Yeah, I don't write romance, so.
Do you have any referrals for people who do indie book marketing, consulting?
I generally recommend, I mentioned Ricardo Fayette from Readsy earlier, like his book. Readsy is a platform to help connect authors to freelancers in various areas that they might need. And so they have some marketers there you can talk to. They also have editors, cover designers, translators. So I would recommend looking at readsy.com
How
for
do
some
you
of their
spell that,
profession.
please? Or can you put it?
Yeah, REEDSY.
Reedsy. Yeah,
Yeah.
they offer all kinds of services. You can just go on the internet and type in Reedsy, and they have all kinds of services to offer.
Okay, thank you.
And he is a good friend, so if you guys ever want to like hear from him, I can always get you in contact with him. He does things like this too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Any other questions?
Do you think we could get something like that set up? That'd be great.
So, Dan, thank you very much. Big round of applause. This was a great presentation. It was very straightforward, easy to follow, lots of actionable information for us to look at and consider and use. We always get great presentations from you guys at D2D.
Thank you.
So, So we really appreciate it. I'm sure you're going to be hearing from some of the people who are on today with further questions. And I do see that you did post your link in here or your information. So I'm assuming that if people do have follow-up questions, they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Let me go ahead. I'll put my email address in. I'm not
That
going to
would
promise.
be
Yeah,
wonderful.
I might not answer all of your questions directly, but I can get them to who on our team can. Uh, and you'll definitely hear from them if you have something.
Yeah, I see that we've got your, is the Dan.wood at Drafted Digital, is that your email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my email. I travel a lot for conferences, and so especially I'm about to leave for New Zealand and Australia for their romance conferences. But I can definitely get someone from my support team or one of our guys that works in marketing to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you to Dan. As I said, big round of applause for him. We really appreciate it. And thank you for our guests from the Historic Novel Society who also attended today. We absolutely leave the door open for you to join us on other meetings if you like. We always have great speakers. Just a reminder about our contest, which we are currently taking submissions for. Last submission date is August 31. And don't forget about our night school starting September 10th. Everything you want to know about traditional publishing. So again, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.
That concludes our program. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. You can find out more about the New York City chapter of the Historical Novel Society at our website or contact us at info@hnsnyc.org. And finally, please consider supporting our volunteer panelists and hosts. You can contact them at their websites in the description. Thanks for joining us.